I think colorism affects me more than anything else. I feel like, especially in like my own community.
I think that pretty much like every interaction that I have with strangers and with people I know is impacted by our race, our respective races.
In terms of me, skin tone has affected, I mean, everything. It will affect everything until the day I die.
There are definitely times where it's been a benefit to me as opposed to something that's been negative, and I don't think that we necessarily remember the times it's been beneficial as a white person.
I think the question of how my skin tone has impacted my life has definitely changed throughout the years. When I was younger, I would more focus on how my skin tone was slightly different from my family's, but I never really thought of the experiences and influences it would have out in the world.
So a lot of times we talk about it like within like the African American community, but it can also impact people like within South Asia. Like
a lot of my passion is fueled from my personal experience, and what has primarily influenced that is me being a biracial woman, being Black and Mexican, and navigating both my Blackness and my Latinx side.
I'm a white male. I've never been stopped because of who I am. I've never, especially with everything going on. I was at the protest yesterday, and it was a lot easier for me to walk by the police than some of the other people that were there with us.
I think my race and ethnicity doesn't, it's considered the norm in the spaces that I occupy. So it's not something that I've had to consider.
When I came back to America, I started recognizing it a lot more in my community because that's the way that I interact with the world usually, since it's through my family and also my family friends. And noticing how in the Indian community, the South Asian community, there's such a thing about, oh, my mother may not like you because you might be too dark for me.
I know that I'm privileged. I think that and I talked about this with a few of my friends who are also mixed, that we have the privilege of looking the way that we do, but also like one of my parents does not look like me. So it's very interesting. I think to some of my friends, depending on how they feel comfortable, I'll say, oh, I'm just mixed. But if it's with a group of people that I know will understand and can kind of help me like feel like what I'm saying is okay, then I can identify as like multiracial or Black or that sort of thing. But I think that's something that I, as a person, have to learn to kind of work with and really understand who I am on a deeper level.
I would say that being light-skinned has granted me a privilege in life. I don't have to think twice about a lot of the things that I do, that if my skin tone were darker, I probably would.
Like I'm like really proud to like come like have my family be from India and stuff like that, and I've kind of used like my culture and things like that to better myself and like be more understanding.
I think through the media and through common stereotypes, we tend to associate certain skin tones with certain heritages and ethnicities. But just looking at the variance in colorism in different cultures, I've realized that there really is no right answer to what a skin tone should have in a certain heritage or in a certain identity. So I think it's made me definitely look beyond just someone's skin tone and really try to understand where they're from, who they are, what they identify with, and know that there's more to someone than just the color of their skin.
The way that people talk about race in society has always been like a stagnant thing. There's like certain preconceptions and certain stereotypes for different skin colors, but then when you see like how fragile and just like the social construct race really is, and it's just determined by me being out in the sun, I was just shocked about that.
It's a really just hard discussion to have with people, that not every Black person looks the same, not every white person looks the same, not every man, woman looks the same, not every mixed person looks the same. And I have had to learn that for myself, that like just because someone thinks you should fit into a category doesn't mean that you will.
Even when I appear in meetings, right, I may be the only Black woman sometimes, and I bring every Black person in the room with me. But then when I have another Black male, then I bring every Black woman with me. Not only do I bring my Blackness, but I bring every Black woman with me, right? And every intersecting identity that I carry, right? Until the day it's okay to just be, right, is when I'll know that it's okay to be Black in America.
The criminal justice system is definitely shaped a lot by our history as a nation that is inherently racist and discriminatory and biased towards certain groups, and seeing that reflected in mass incarceration or the way that we penalize certain people in the criminal justice system is definitely very negative. I think that the criminal justice system in the US specifically has a lot of need for reform, and we must first attack those inherent systematic biases that we see in order to improve the system as a whole.
I think that it is an extension of whiteness. Whiteness and white people are kind of an extension of the criminal justice system.
We base decisions in people's lives off of their skin tone or how deep their skin tone goes.
I try to approach looking at the justice system through the lenses of those that I read, and learning that, like, just because the justice system may be just for me if I were to enter it in some form, it's not that way for everybody else.
To be Black in America means that not only do you have to fight 10 times as hard to get your point across, but it also questions if you'll even be believed.
I think the criminal justice system is inherently flawed. When you determine people's futures based on subjective judgments, there are bound to be errors. And so I would say that I think our system hasn't done a great job at curbing those errors, and we've seen that in racial prejudices and different biases that people have. I definitely think there's room for improvement, but I think right now, especially the Black Lives Matter movement, people are determining whether we want to fix or whether we want to dismantle certain parts.
It's just blowing my mind how I have so much privilege as a white woman, and then in many ways the codes were set against me, but in many ways the laws and rules are for me and exclude or discriminate against Black and brown people.
Don't think that the justice system holds Black and white people to the same standard, or any person of color to the same standard that they hold white people.
But it's clear statistically and anecdotally that we're not the target, and our prisons are not filled with people who look like me, who come from my background.
The part that really bothers me is the way that we hold on to people once they have been convicted of a crime. I don't like plea deals. I think those are tricky, and that's a mechanism to get people into jail, or to just give up their rights so easily and things like that. I think it's very confusing. People throw a lot of terminology around, and it's very shrouded in like language, and it feels so big and so wide. And once you're ensnared in it, like, it's very hard to get out. And I think that's the worst part about it.
I have been studying justice for over 4 years now, and it is interesting to see how many holes and loopholes that we have that are used for some and not for others. And just kind of the knowledge of the law, and how knowledge of the law is required for some but not for all, including those who are enforcing the laws and things.
Coming from that area of privilege, that really shaped how I grew up understanding how the system worked, and coming in contact with the knowledge and intelligence that that's not how it is for everyone else has been something that I've been trying to work with and understand through reading and literature and everything, because I understand that my skin tone definitely gives me a very different view of the criminal justice system than it does for many other people.
I would say that justice in America is, it's something that is said a lot, and we say that we have this great criminal justice system and that America is great for everybody, but that's not true. And I mean, you can see that if you literally look outside your window right now, or turn on the news, or any social media at all. And the more that you read about, like, the criminal justice system, or really any system in America, you see the inequity and the inequalities that often correlate with race or skin tone or gender or any other demographic you could think of, really.
And the criminal justice system takes people away from that. It doesn't help the community. It only destroys it. You're taking away resources. You're taking away people that can put time and dedication and effort into the community to only build it up. And I think that's a very detrimental part of the criminal justice system.
You know, I grew up listening to hip hop music, and I remember at multiple points, like different rappers being like, look, if you're white and you're listening to our music and you're liking our message and all of this stuff, like you also have to care about these other issues too. Like you don't get to just come and enjoy our art and listen to a story about police brutality or about a lived reality of a community that's being impacted by the police and then go home and like never think about it when things get tough.